It's now 7:30. We've concluded executive session. No action to report. And we're resuming our business meeting, the public session. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like Tina and Mona to please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Emergency evacuation and meeting procedures. In case of an emergency, please follow the exit signs to leave the building quickly and safely. And also remember, this is a smoke-free school district and a hate-free school district. So smoking and hate activities are not permitted in any building or anywhere in school grounds. Okay, board consent agenda. I'd like to ask, do a motion. Is there a motion to approve items C, 1, 2, and 3? Ms. Felice, second by Ms. Ancona.
Aruda. There we go. At least you won't have to worry about it next
No,
week.
because when I get to the next one, you'll see why I did that, and I carved out the one that should have Gina Ancona's name written all over it, but that's not this one. So first by Ms. Felice, second by Ms. Aruda. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's approved. Our next item, which is the item C4, which ought to be called the Gina Ancona Memorial
Don't say that.
issue on our agenda. But in order to have this discussion, I do need a motion to approve item C4. Ms. Aruda, second by Ms. Felice.
Reluctantly.
And now we can have the questions and discussion. So, I'll start with our reluctant trustee.
Okay. Well, this is something that we honor Gina for making the decision that she has to take care of her family. And we honor and respect that, but I'm gonna just say me. Everyone will speak for themselves. I had a great time getting to know you and working with you, and we are going to miss you, but we wish you well, and hopefully you will take the experience here from South Country and do good things down where you will put them to good use. So just good luck, to know that you're going to be missed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Trent?
I just want to echo what Trustee Felice said. I'm sure, we're going to be texting still,
Yes.
about issues. But I'm definitely going to miss you on the board,
Thank you.
100%. But, I hope you go off and do bigger and better things. I hope you're, go on the board where you are going. So, but you will be missed.
Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Aruda?
It's more personal for me because I'm not only losing a trustee but a good friend, my son's best friend. Although I know that we'll be together and we'll see each other, but you'll definitely be missed.
Mr. Parker?
Gina, boy, have I enjoyed this time with you. It's been quite interesting. But I know you're going on to bigger and better things. All the best to you, and shoot us a brief from time to time. Let us know how you're doing. Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Piccini?
Good luck to you wherever the future holds for you.
Thank you.
And I was just going to comment that when you came on the board, I was a newbie myself. I was at the end of my first year just learning how things worked. You came on, but during the time of knowing you, I feel like you helped me be a better board member, and I want to thank you for that. And I also think that you helped this board mature over the time you were on it, and it helped us be a better board. So thank you for that. And I think we now
Yeah,
have
so-
something from Dr. Chiani.
Ms. Ancona, in recognition of your board service and commitment to the children here in the district, I want to thank you for the board service and also the betterment of our schools and our schools programs. So on behalf of the district, and I think this time I will also speak on behalf of the board, I want to present you this award for your service.
Thank you so
We're going
much.
to try and do a little picture. Wishing you well in your future endeavors. You can scoot around with me.
Well, why don't we put you?
Why don't you get in the middle? Can we do a mask look? Can we do both? Yes, no? Not comfortable? Okay.
What do you, I already had COVID. I was vaccinated too, though. Whatever, but it's fine. Do you?
I'm fine with taking my mask off. If you're not, we'll just go.
Okay, let's
Let's do
just
both.
do it.
Okay. There we go. You're good.
Smile with our eyes.
Can we take one with all the board?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
We don't have to post this one. This one is.
Let me say, it's less out of anxiety.
I'll send it over. I'll send it over.
And more out of setting an example.
Oh, you want me to go on there? Okay.
Well, I'm not standing next to Karen.
I'll take
Well, we're even
I'll
now,
take
that's
a
good.
wing.
I think that you probably should get.
Yeah, how's that? Go ahead.
There you go. Good. Ready? Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. A little more. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just say a few things.
We didn't vote yet, so.
I'm not changing my mind.
We might.
I wish I could. Oh, thank you.
So,
On.
okay, back to our motion.
May I say a few things?
Is this will be part of the questions or discussion on the motion? Okay, that's.
Well, I just wanted to say that I appreciate everybody's kind words, and you guys have made a difference in my life just as much as I made a difference in yours. And everything I did was for the kids and for this community that I've been a part of for over 12 years. And that was my mission coming on the board, especially in the hardest time ever. I think in the board history, was just to make sure that it was safe and for all the kids and for the faculty. And I really appreciate everybody's support through everything. We have wonderful teachers here at South Country, and we couldn't do it without them. And I'm so lucky that they were the mentors for my son, and now he gets to take what he learned here somewhere new. And it's scary, but it's exciting at the same time. And I'd like to thank Mr. Briggs and working with the Health and Safety Committee. And Ms. Doyle, thank you for everything that you've explained to me over the past year and a half. And I'm so happy that you're a part of our district and making a difference. And it was really an honor of having the pleasure of being on the hiring you and approving you. And I think that you're going to be an asset. You are an asset already.
Thank you.
And Christine, I really admire everything you do. I couldn't. And again, thank you for answering all my questions throughout the year. And Sarah, I appreciate everything that you do, keeping us informed of everything. And I'll miss all of you, Dr. Gianni. I know that we've had our differences, but I really do admire the work that you do, and I know it's a very hard task. And I just want to thank everybody. I'm going to miss you guys, and I hope you guys keep in touch. Thank you.
So I'm not going to use the usual language about all in favor, but all voting yes to accept the resignation, please raise your hand. And so that's unanimous. We're going to miss you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any public commentary?
I was just going to make a statement to say that since the last meeting, I'm aware of 3 emails from parents that were to the board. 2 of them dealt with the quarantine issue and testing of children to come back out of quarantine. And the other was an email regarding updating a web page that had been giving daily announcements for the high school. And those were the only issues that have been brought to my attention through the email system as of tonight, and I had shared that with all members.
I think I jumped. I didn't do my report yet.
You did it, so we would.
I jumped.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid it.
Oh, wait a minute. No, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
report
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my turn.
Your turn?
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome to it.
Okay, thank you. So, as of yesterday, we have 98 known positive COVID-19 cases have been reported to the district. These 98 reports include 18 faculty or staff and 80 students. With regard to quarantines, as of yesterday, the current count of faculty staff in quarantine is 0. That's good news. And the current count for students in quarantine is 5. Again, good news, those numbers went down. The New York State weekly testing requirement is now in its 2nd week here in South Country. And looking at the breakdown of employees to be tested, currently 71% of our employees have opted out of weekly testing, with 29% opting for weekly testing. And that is going quite well in our buildings. Transportation, as mentioned early in the school year, due to driver shortages, we are experiencing some issues with transportation, particularly with our after-school programs. Yesterday, the after-school enrichment programs rolled out at Frank P. Long, and while the programs went off without a hitch, we did experience loading issues which caused transportation delays. Compound matters even worse. It was difficult to get through to the bus company, as many of the office staff are now driving buses to cover our routes. We are working with the company and do appreciate your patience as we work to resolve these loading issues that led to the delays. And of course, at any time, if you cannot get through the bus company, please feel free to contact the school directly.
Can I make a comment on busing?
Sure.
Do you want me to wait until it's my turn to go around, or just because you mentioned it, it's up to you?
It's fine.
Just say it.
Um,
I can wait, it's up to you.
We've already disrupted the order of things, so go ahead.
You know, I did just want to take a moment and mention it, because it is, and I know there's not much we can do. I understand what the issues are, but I am getting frustrated with, I think, some of the things we're hearing from the bus company. I'm a little concerned, and it is the after-school buses, and I know, I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but let's face it, the task of the day is getting buddy to and from school in normal hours. But, you know, my own kids, specifically my daughter, has been on the late bus quite a bit. She was on that 5:30 bus, that late one, for something that she did with the student council. And, you know, it's starting to get dark, buses are getting lost, they're in some, you know, I mean, she's taking pictures of her phone and sending it to me. I mean, it looked like they were driving our junkyard. So, I mean, like, I'm really, really concerned with, I get the shortages, but now I really need to understand, you know, what the bus company's doing with the drivers that they do have, to make sure they know where they're going and what they're doing. And it's a little nerve-wracking. My 10-year-old daughter sending me pictures of, you know, some, you know, parts of town that just don't look like the bus should be. And it was a dead end and wrong turn, and the bus is now backing out. And it just seems like, in just witnessing some of the driving from some bus drivers in my neighborhood and others, is getting a little hard to take right now. And again, I understand it's a big problem with people, but, you know, I'd also like to know, you know, again, I know it's people, and I know there's not a great solution, but some of the comments and some of the way these bus drivers are handling discipline issues and things that are going on the bus, you know, I'm hearing a lot about, you know, bus drivers yelling at kids, and I get if there's a disruption, they need to raise their voice, but, you know, what kind of training are these bus drivers being given on how to speak to children while they're on a bus and things like that? So I know you don't have an answer. I'm sure the bus company doesn't have an answer, but at the end of the day, we have a contract with the bus company for them to provide service, and we need to be holding them to accountable in certain areas where they can improve. So I'd like to make sure that, you know, when we have instances, they are being addressed, and, you know, we're seeking some sort of resolution this, because I know our contract didn't go, you know, our prices are going down, right? Our payments to the bus company.
Our use is going down now.
What's the matter?
Our use is going down. You're right, the numbers in the contract have gone down, but the use is going down because of the lack of the drivers.
Yeah, I get it, and I guess, I know we've discussed it before, but like, are they claiming the vaccine and the mandated vaccine is the issue, they're not getting people?
No, we're not even at that point yet.
So I don't, like, because I don't get it, right, because when there was a labor shortage, we kept hearing it was because of the extra unemployment, right? That's been gone long enough. So I'm curious as to know why they're struggling so much.
There is still a huge problem with the employment issue, and particularly with drivers. So much so, and you might not know this, but the state stepped in and actually sent lists of unemployed folks with CDLs to districts.
Yeah, no, I did hear that.
We shared that with our company, and our company actually got some good results from it, as reported. So we're hoping that we'll be able to start filling those holes in those ranks and be able to address some of those issues. The training piece, I would have to look into. I know they all go through training, but honestly, I can't tell you that they get training on how to speak to kids.
Yeah, I think right now they're grabbing
Yeah,
more bodies and
well,
giving them keys
Well,
right
there's
now, right?
clerical driving buses.
Yeah.
There's clerical with CDLs driving buses.
Yeah, no, I get it, and like, again, I get we're in a bad spot, I just wanna make sure we're monitoring it and we're making sure, I mean, whatever we can do, and again, I said this before, in the past, you know, it might be time for us to start looking at long-term planning and taking over some of these things and buying some vehicles, and I'm not saying we're gonna do K-12 busing every day, but, you know, there was a time where we had minibuses and we did after school, we did special ed, and we did some of those things. I don't really wanna be here again if, you know, there's another issue down the road. I think we really need to start having some conversations to how we're gonna avoid something like this in the future. Whether, again, we have more 15-passenger vans, we rent vans and have people, because I foresee another issue coming, right? Marijuana is legal in New York State. To have a CDL, you still have to take a drug test, right? Even though it's legal here because it's a federal license, I have to think that's gonna be a contributing factor. So I could see this only getting worse.
Well,
So-
as you suggested in our earlier meetings, we are looking at short-term fixes. I'll be honest with you, we're not looking at a long-term purchase of fleet of buses at this point. I don't believe it's going to last forever, the shortage, but it is gonna last for some time.
I don't think we're getting out of this school year.
No, I don't, well, I think it will improve. I think it will improve, but I don't think it's gonna be resolved.
I just, you know,
But to get back to his report on the transportation issue and the difficulties that has been experienced since we met 2 weeks ago, Dr. Chiani, you feel that the company is doing everything that they can to get it resolved. They know what the issues are and they know what our expectations are.
I do, and I think they've been very receptive. And honestly, I think while we do have issues, we don't have the issues that some of our neighbors are having right now.
I know, listen, I get those answers, I understand, and maybe it's not as bad here as it is in other places, and I get that they know it, but, I mean, how much longer do we have to accept that it's not gonna get, you know, that it's not better right now? Because I'm thinking to myself now, the 5:30 bus is gonna be coming home and, you know, it's gonna be pitch black out because daylight savings is coming. and, you know, winter sports are starting, and, you know, those games a little later, and then we're bouncing around, it just, I can see an issue coming, especially with sports and all those other things. So I know you don't have an answer, and I'm not trying to just pester you, but it's saying we have a problem, there's nothing we can do, you know, it's kind of hard. I'd like to know that we're proactively thinking about solutions.
And I don't want you to think, if I came off that way, I don't want you to take that the takeaway. We know there's a problem, and we're working with the company, and I think we are making progress with what's going on.
Okay.
And we are looking at short-term solutions also.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, my final item, I'm proud to announce that Bellport Middle School and Bellport High School will be presenting at the Long Island Council for Social Studies with 3 presentations this year. Andrew Rogers and Jackie O'Hagan will be presenting The Color of Law, Investigating Systemic Racism Using Problem-Based Learning. Wendy Palladino, Lori Doherty, and Salvatore Finacero will be presenting Promoting Equity for E&L Learners in a Global History Classroom. And Megan Biven and Kevin Glynn will be presenting Project-Based Learning in the Middle School Classroom. The conference will be on October 29th at the Melville Marriott, and again, we are proud of our faculty presenters, and they're highlighting our programs here in the South Country. Jackie's here, so thank you, Jackie, in person. And that is all the announcements that I have, President Hayes.
That is good news. So next would be Trustee and Advisory Committee report, and let's start with our student representative.
Homecoming has been our main focus for the last few weeks. We have been selling tickets for the dance after school last week, and we continue this week. As of today, we have sold over 300 tickets. This just shows how eager the students are to get back and get involved. We have also been making decorations for the dance and planning the night. This week, the Spirit Week, and our students have been participating each day. This Friday, we will have our Pep Rally, and similar to other events, this will be the first in a while, so students are excited to represent their teams and support other teams. Our school is showing our support for breast cancer awareness by hosting our fundraiser. The Student Council is selling pink bracelets, and we will donate profit to the breast cancer research. Trunk or Treat Street will happen on October 29th in the high school parking lot. Since we cannot do Trick or Treat Street inside this year, we will host it outside, and the children will trick or treat car to car. Also, next Friday, the Student Council will be attending the elementary schools to teach them about Safe Halloween. And also the drop-off to school in the morning has been much faster and much smoother without the temperature check, so that's
Bryn, do you want to tell the board where the dance is going to be?
it's going to be on the turf field outside.
Very
It's
nice.
going to be interesting, under the lights, outside. so
Under the
kids can
lights,
be
yeah.
maskless.
We've been making so many decorations, so hopefully it doesn't get rained out now.
Oh,
I think we
no.
have good weather report, right?
I don't know, I saw rain this morning.
When is the dance Saturday?
So now it's kind of like stretched.
Oh, boy.
Is there gonna be a tent? Is
In the rain.
there gonna be a tent?
What time is the
Tent.
dance?
Tenth on the turf.
7 to 10.
Well,
7 till 10?
You're not allowed to have a tent.
But we said
You can have it. Over down the road.
it's not gonna do
Good luck, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Ms. Aruda?
Just real quickly, I attended the website committee, and there's great work being done. I want to thank Ms. Flynn, she's not here today, but for all the work that she has been doing with the website. We are aware that the mobile site was down for a little while. Many of us were not aware. It is resolved. And there's great things coming with the website, so stay tuned. And we look forward to feedback from the community on things that you want to see on the website and the ease of access for the website from our community and from our students.
So, Ms. Arruda, I saw in the minutes, it talked about Kelly providing a new a new template for the face? Is
We
that,
are
is that
looking-
doable?
We are looking into it. They are getting not Citrix, what is our provider?
Syntax?
Syntax, thank you. I have Citrix at work. That's right. We're looking to see if that is doable with what we have now. And basically, we're looking for things that are going to be cost efficient.
Yeah, because that sounds like if it's possible, it's an easy
Right,
transition.
and we're really looking for ways to ease the transition with the mobile device, where we did get some feedback as to see where most people are going on the website, and we know that most use it through the mobile device. So that's really what we're looking at, is exactly how we're going to, and we've added quite a bit. I'm saying we, I haven't personally done it, but it's through our feedback. A lot of the links that come up on the mobile has been through our discussions with the committee, and making sure that those high points are on that mobile device, so as soon as you click on it, it's right there for you. So we still have some work to do, but I think we're making some great progress.
Yeah, no, I think you really have.
That's a question.
Sure.
Has the committee or anybody looked into creating an app? I know there's a cost associated, but I think it's much less than it used to be.
We've had some discussions with them. We've had a couple of people, different people coming in. Really, with our last discussion was making sure that we are doing things that would be cost efficient. What we found is that there's a lot of different things placed in, the same item is placed in various parts of the website, which is kind of clouding it up.
Sure.
One of the things that we did talk about was that we're not having the text put the stuff in anymore. And my concern was that our principals are doing it, and I want to overburden our principals.
I think you're delegating it.
Yeah, and that's what I have heard, and Christine said she was gonna kind of come back to me and talk to me a little bit about that, and really just to try to make it a smooth transition that's user-friendly, and again, that mobile device. Most people are not grabbing a computer to go onto the website, they're really looking at the mobile portion.
One of the reasons I bring it up is because I'm one of those people who goes to the website, but the mobile site is limited in
It is,
the content.
it is,
So I have to go to
absolutely.
the full site, and
Right.
using a full site on a
The mobile
device
device, this
is
is
not,
right, and
isn't really user-friendly, so that's why I
Right.
bring it up.
And that's why if you looked at the mobile site recently, we used to only have about 4 or 5 first tabs that would pop in there. We have some of the highlighted, so, schools are there. So we've added a few tabs to that, and we have work to do, definitely have work to do, the translation portion of it, things like that. But we're really gearing it a lot towards that mobile portion of it, because we realize that that's where most people are going.
Do we look into, is the website committee looking into like the portal access and stuff too, or is that separate? Only
Yeah.
only because there is an app for the portal, but that's really limited as well, that's why I asked, in my opinion. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Parker?
Yeah, I attended the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting a couple of days ago. Can't remember now. Miss Acosta, she really did a great job in explaining some of the things that we've been working on over the course of years. Most of it has now been rectified, and I know that's going to be part of her discussion this evening, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time in trying to explain something that she certainly can explain it much better than I can, but I think we'll all be happy with some of the results of some of the repairs that we've been working on for a while, and I'm totally excited about it. Yeah. I did.
Mr. Puccini?
I wasn't able to make the committee meetings. One of the reasons we have one, health and safety was at 4:30, that's just no way I can do that. But in regards to the legislative committee, we obviously haven't had a meeting, but I did send out a communication tonight. What I'd like to do is, just to make the board aware, is once the NISBA resolutions meeting Monday is finished, I'd like to meet with the legislative committee, review those priorities, and then discuss a plan of action to lobby for those priorities with our local legislators, as well as any other issues that the committee wants to address and how it affects that. So once I sent that communication out to the committee tonight, and then once Monday's meeting is over and we confirm what's been approved, which I suspect it's everything that's been recommended by the NISBA and Nassau Suffolk will be be the issues, and I'll send the committee all of those legislative priorities tomorrow morning. I'm just waiting for a clean version of it in one sheet from Nassau Suffolk School Boards to send out, so it's a little more user-friendly for those of us that don't read through all this jargon every day. So, that's it.
Mr. Trent?
I attended the Health and Safety Committee meeting. We just really talked about some shortages in some areas. And, I think that was it.
Ms. Felice?
Yes, with respect to Mr. Pacini's report on the legislative agenda, I attended the October 7th voting delegates orientation, and unfortunately, the New York State School Board Association was having great difficulty with the participants online in getting, apparently, with all the trainings that we have done throughout the last 2 years with the pandemic, many people on this particular call were not as familiar with the process. And so 47 minutes into the meeting, we still hadn't even started the agenda. They were still getting technical difficulties worked out. So they did have a second night for the orientation, which was tonight. It started at 4 o'clock, so it was going to conflict with tonight's meeting, but they are going to record it. So I will see the recording before the 18th, the meeting on the 18th, where we will formally adopt the survey that went out on the legislative agendas that's being recommended was successful, and they were attempting to go through the orientation meeting, and giving us another opportunity to vote, and the vote was coming out the same, percentage-wise as had been experienced in the survey, but they just couldn't get the technical difficulties out of the way on the 7th. So hopefully they were able to do better tonight, and then I'll watch tonight's before the 18th, but I will be on the 4 o'clock meeting on the 18th and report back to you at the next meeting. And I also want to congratulate Mr. Briggs on being inducted into the Football Hall of Fame for his class of '82 apparently terrific tackles and all of his accolades that he received when he participated on Bellport's football team. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
That was awarded just this last weekend. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. And I also had attended the health and safety meeting and a strategic planning meeting. And the minutes are already posted for all board members to read, go over them. There was a lot covered, and in particular, I'm excited about some of the work that's coming out of this committee and working with some of the other committees also in connection with our mission statement that is being reviewed and updated. But all the different committees are going to weigh in on that. It'll all come back to strategic planning, and we should have a good product to look forward to. Also, similar updating is going on with regard to strategic planning goals and keeping an eye on the changes that have happened in education, particularly over the last 2 years with the pandemic, and how to go about measuring success when we look at our strategic plan. And there was a discussion about how to maybe start using other measures of success than just test scores. So I'm glad to see the committee moving forward with that. And that now brings us back. We've already done the public commentary, and now we're down to F, which is items for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Our first item for discussion is communicating with the board, which is a follow-up discussion from our last meeting. As requested, District Council has prepared a suggestion for changes to Policy 3170 for the board's review and discussion. So I think I will defer to the board on taking a look at that, and I believe Ms. service, and Alex is prepared to speak to the board on those suggestions if need be.
I think we were given, for our convenience in our discussion tonight, a copy of the existing policy and also your letter of suggestions. And I think that you did a good job of taking our discussion from the last meeting and incorporating it. But I did have one comment, that in the very last sentence, where it talks about how the superintendent shall provide the board, instead of saying with verbal or written notice as to the manner in which the correspondence was addressed, to say something more along the lines of the superintendent shall inform the members of the board of the response to the correspondence. Because then that would leave it up to administration to determine how best to keep us in the loop on this. You know, whether it's by email, or whether it's in our weekly update, or if it's part of the report at a meeting. That would just be my suggestion, and the reason I'm jumping in and speaking first is because as board president, I've been the one that has had the responsibility of doing the initial response to anybody who's written email or correspondence to us. And these were some things that I kind of struggled with when trying to make my response. So, Ms. Belize.
That was going to be my question. With the recommendations that have been suggested, is it consistent with how you've been able to respond to the correspondence?
Yes, but I think that the language that had been suggested for me to use in the response, it doesn't get received well by the recipient, even though the language, I think, is appropriate and it covers the situation. And I'm thinking, you know, I would like to get input from council about how we could maybe work on that a little bit. But the other thing, if I could tack on to your question, that this has made me think too about what about correspondence received by individual board members? You know, because if that's not coming to me to then give to all the board, we don't all know about it. I only know what is sent that has my name on it, what is sent to me because it went through the clerk, or what is sent to me, you know, because of being the board officer. And, you know, if there are other emails that are coming in to other board members, maybe we need to have an arrangement so that somehow it's all funneled so we're all aware of it.
Has there been a problem that you think you're missing emails? Because there have been times where emails will come just to me, and then I will send them to you with a copy to the board. And there will be times where I'll let the individual know. The protocol is to forward it to the president. And I think there was one case where there was something specific that I answered, but still the copy went to you and the rest of the board.
Right.
So is that working for everybody else? It's working for me. I don't
If we
hold
use-
on to any email.
I want to use that as an example.
Okay.
That, in my mind, is something that worked.
Okay.
Because that meant that we all knew about it. We all knew about what the correspondence was about. But what it did to me was say, oh, here's something that just went to one board member. You know, how else would we know unless the board member, unless we have this centralized repository of all communications that come in? So I'm
From
just,
my recollection, I think we've all done that though. Like, exactly what Cheryl just said. I don't ever, I mean, obviously if we don't know, we don't know, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I think we've seen it from everybody in that regard.
So, you know, as a matter of practice with this board, it may have been working the way I would think it would be intended to work. But if we're looking at setting a policy, you know, in order to make sure that that's what is happening, is this where we need to do it?
I think it has been working. I do agree with you, and I know Gina has brought it up a number of times. The response back is not being well received. And I think you know, that's where we need to improve. So that the individuals feel, I guess, I'm interpreting it as they are feeling like they're not being heard.
Yes.
And I think we need to strengthen the response back that, you know, to them, that they are being heard, we are listening, this is how we're doing it. There has to be a little bit more there when we respond back to the individuals who reach out to the board.
I see a nod over on this side of the table also.
It's just very generic, and it comes across that we don't care. Like, that's to me, I think it just needs to be a little more personal.
I would say especially because a lot of the letters are passionate, you know,
Yeah.
and they care so much, and sometimes they're long. So the people spend a lot of time putting it together.
You don't even have to like acknowledge the actual subject. You could say, I hear your concerns, but, you know, this is the person I'm referring it to, something to that effect, that it's not just like, so verbatim and like redundant, like, because it's a lot of people also sending multiple emails and they're getting the same response for every subject that they're emailing. So I think something just on a little personal note.
But
would
I
make a
like
difference.
what Ms. Ancona just said about the direction. So this way, the writer knows, okay, the next step is, it's going to the assistant superintendent of whatever. It's going to the principal of the school. So that they have an understanding of the next step and the next action that will be taken.
Here's the problem, maybe I'm sounding devil's advocate a little bit here, but, you know, being in the seat of having to do that,
Yeah?
I've never felt that it was my job to tell any staff member that this needs to be done. I have to deal with the superintendent. And the superintendent then tells the staff member. And that's part of the reason that the response had been crafted the way it was.
So to that point, then the superintendent should respond back to you as to what action took place. So you can respond back to the individual that this is how it was handled, and then a copy goes to the rest of the board. Because there's a disconnect, there's a definite disconnect. I feel that way. I don't know if the rest of the board feels that way.
I'm sorry, I missed that point. It feels
I
what?
feel like there's a disconnect after an individual sends a letter and gets the response from the president that has been advised by counsel. So we're not trying to push the issue off, but yet it feels like it's falling upon, you know, not being heard. And so there has to be more of an interaction as to, okay, what steps were taken? It was sent to the superintendent. What actions did the superintendent take to resolve the issue? Is it a matter that's going to be placed on the next agenda of the Board of Education for further discussion? There has to be a little bit more as to how we're going to deal with the issue that was raised.
I think to that point, I think one of the things, I think maybe some of us, and I know maybe I have as well, the assumption is, and the feeling from us that it's not being heard is because we really don't always know what the follow-up is. And I think that's really, you know, what the answer is. So maybe, you know, whether it's an update or something like that, you know, and I know this is just one more thing for the superintendent's office to do is, you know, this community member had this issue, it was referred to this staff member and was responded to at that point, so we know, hey, all right, it was handled. And then at that point, I think a community member, whether they feel that the communication from the board president isn't warm and fuzzy, whether that's how they interpret it or not. I think the real important piece is that they were responded to from somebody who can address their issue. And I don't get the impression that that's not happening, but we don't really know, so maybe that's where some of it's coming from.
And I hear that, and I think it's a good point. But back to Ms. Felice, the problem with doing that is that then puts the board president back in the position of essentially saying, was there follow-up? You know, or my understanding is the superintendent referred this matter to the principal, you know, something to that effect. Again, that's not the role of the trustee or the board president to get in the middle of that.
Well, I don't want to take up more time because I know there's other hands, but that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I think, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you, but
No,
I
go
think
right
that
ahead.
what we were saying is, it doesn't really have to have a resolution, or even, you don't even have to direct it to anybody specific, but let's just say somebody says something, there's an attendance issue, and I'm just throwing that out there. You can say, I received your letter about the attendance issue, and this is going to Dr. Gianni or, you know, to delegate to the appropriate party. To just address what their subject is instead of a generic email, I
That's
think
good.
may help. Just alleviate that, to make it more personal.
Right.
And just in the email, it doesn't look like it's copied and pasted. It's actually specific to what their needs were.
Okay. By referencing the topic.
Right.
I think that's a good.
That's a good idea.
I think there's two issues here as I see it, and number one is that some view the response as, you know, a little cold or not, you know, understanding or compassionate enough of what the issue is. And then part two is, you know, is it, you know, some people could take it as I was blown off. You know, the question is, and I don't think that's happening, but I think the question is, does the board feel comfortable that when an email comes to the board and is referred to the superintendent, that it is getting handled?
I think it is.
As long as we feel that that's happening, then I think that issue is dead. I just want to make sure that wasn't, because I mean, I
Right, and
certainly do.
that gets back to what I
But I-
had said at the beginning for Barbara's attention, which is if we can rewrite the policy and also the letter that the board president will send, to indicate it's being given to the superintendent because it's his job. I mean, we know
But I
this.
think, I just want to finish my one point though too, because I think that it takes you out of the mix, right? Once you do that. And I don't see anything in the policy that needs to be changed. I think it's really just the response, right?
I think that's
Well,
what we were
the
doing,
policy
Ann.
does say that he's gonna report back in writing.
Right, so,
And that's like an extra, you know, from a practical point of view, with the way he communicates to us, a lot of it is in writing because it's board updates or we're copied on the emails. But I just thought that having the policy itself say it has to be, you know, specifying how it's gotta be, is maybe making it harder on our administration to make sure that the issue is addressed properly.
so if I may just respond to that briefly. In terms of the proposed suggestions, that was sort of a collection of the previous discussion and a revision of the policy. As it's written, it's legally sufficient. Right now, it provides that the superintendent will provide a verbal or written response, and that's what was discussed last time. So the superintendent would have the discretion to determine whether to provide that update verbally or in written form. If you wish to change that language to shall inform the board, that's also legally permissible. It's really a policy decision as to how you want to frame that process. And the same goes for your response. So the policy provides for the minimum elements that have to be included in your response. How you frame it, whether you include a reference to the underlying inquiry or not, is really a choice that you're going to make. It's not directed by the policy.
Okay. But I'm also kind of looking at it just from how to, how to best address the issue, and I like your suggestion about making a reference to the topic as well as the date of the email that was received. So that's a relatively easy change that could be made. And then in terms of continuing to direct it to the superintendent, I'm not hearing anybody who thinks that ought to be changed. No. I mean, because our role is to work through the superintendent. So,
So can I?
yes, you can weigh in on
Yeah,
this.
so I see there's three issues here, right? The policy, the response, and then what happened. Right, so the policy, I think, as Barbara outlined and Ms. Hayes suggested to inform, is fine. It makes things easier for me, right? The response, I agree. It's kind of canned, it needs to be kinder and gentler, and I think you and I can work on that, because I don't know if it needs to be legal sufficient. But in terms of embedding what the piece is, and then I think part of it needs to be that you referred it to me, who will refer it to the person closest to the issue. And I go back to have a question, right? We developed this have a question years ago to alleviate some of these issues so people know. Go to someone closest to the problem, because honestly, that's what I do. When you send me something, I forward it to the person closest to the problem to take care of, and instruct them to get in touch with this person. So what's missing now for you is what happened. So let me tool around in my head on how maybe I can do that. I mean, what I've been trying to do is when I get it in writing, is I forward it to you so you see it was addressed. Sometimes I don't get it in writing. So maybe I have to put in my response, change my response to the individual saying I have referred it to. If you don't hear, let me know, and then I can send that to you. But I'd like to play with it. I don't want to get myself tied into something, because it's a lot, and I'll probably ask Ms. Chapelletti to do it anyway. So. But I mean, I think we can get to where I think you need to be, and like I said, I think it's policy, the response, and what happened.
I think that's a good point, and it is the outcome piece. I think that that ties it in better between the superintendent and the board, and then we'll work on making the response be a little more individualized, but still within the parameters of what's permitted by the board to say and to be involved in. So, and the policy, we're having a discussion right now about it. Does anybody think that it needs to be addressed? I know Mr. Pacini thinks that it's okay the way it is.
The way it is, or the way you amended Barbara's suggestion?
I don't remember, so just do it.
Okay, well, look at the last line in the policy, and it says, the way the policy reads is the board members will be provided with copies of the response. Well, it may not be in writing, so I was gonna say the superintendent shall inform the board of the response.
So that's the original. So the original policy has the copies piece.
So that would need to be changed.
Right. So you saw the changes though, that's been revised.
It says verbal or written notice, which is either or. It's kind of the same as what you're saying, yeah.
So Ms. Hayes, actually, council's addition upon receipt actually addresses the piece you initially talked about with what trustees getting and sharing it with everybody, right?
Right.
So you could certainly change that from board president to the board member.
Yeah, but I still take it that way. All right, board president, the Board of Education, the board president, yeah.
Well, it says, upon receipt of correspondence to the Board of Education or any member.
Sure.
or any member of the board? Would that then pull in all the correspondence so that it would be directed to the superintendent to go out?
Well, they send it to you, and then you would send it to
Right.
me,
Mm-hmm.
and all board members.
I have a question on the website.
Yes.
Where's it under?
Have a question?
Sidebar.
Does it say have a question?
It says have, it
Does it
says
say-
have.
Yeah.
I never noticed it
It's
before.
actually on the left side,
on
down
a
at the
quick link.
bottom.
Oh, a quick link? Okay.
Yeah, it's on the left-hand side. I was actually just looking at the analytics to see if, it's not in there, to see if that's been touched, but I don't see it in our analytics.
Actually, I just read that for the first time several weeks
Oh,
ago,
the
and I said,
analytics from
wow,
the
this
report,
really.
from
From the
this
report, it's just going by schools, it's not, that's not one of the,
Just to see if it,
And along with your response, I think you'll link that, have a question.
Mhm.
Because I think, you know,
Yeah,
you get
Oh,
people
that's an
accustomed,
idea.
under
Yeah.
signature.
people to, you know,
Yeah, steer them back to the website.
Yeah. So tell it to them nicely about, you know.
But that's true, they might not be aware of it.
I never seen it. I've never noticed it.
Okay, well, even though you're resigning tomorrow, you can still go on the website and you can look at it. 'cause
I might have a
it-
question next 2 weeks.
Yeah. So do we need any more discussion here? And the homework will be, Dr. Gianni and I are gonna work on the letter, so that the board, through me, is not stepping on the superintendent's toes. And so that it makes it clear that the superintendent is the one who's going to be following up, either directly or through a designee. And then our council will look at, I guess if, the policy, give it back, and that'll go through, and normally these things go through strategic planning. The benefit of having it go through is we would have impact or input from other members, not, other faculty, staff, and community members. So I think that we ought to follow that procedure once it comes back. But in the meantime, we can already start to implement a better sounding response.
Thank you.
Okay?
great, I think it was a great discussion. Okay, our next item for discussion is the upcoming board vacancy that resulted in Ms. Ancon's departure. The district council has advised the board that there are 4 options when filling a board vacancy. The first is the board education appoint a new member until the next regular school election. Second is hold a special election to fill the remainder of the term. And I did dig up the cost of that election and shared it with the board and board docs. Leave the seat vacant until the next regular school district election, which is actually something we did at the last time we had a trustee move out of the district. And then finally, Eastern Suffolk BOCES district superintendent appointment, which is generally done when the boards are not able to come to a decision, either through their duties in governing the district or how they're going to handle the vacancy. So I offer this for options for the board's discussion.
Okay. Who wants to go first, or should I go around the table? It's police.
Looking at the budget, it's clear that we don't want to incur the expense of a special election. The board is charged with making the appointment, so if we should go that route, we're certainly within our right to do so. The last year's cost, and that was only because it was mandated to be a absentee ballot, cost an additional $6,000 to $8,000 more, for a total of $28,000. We don't need to do that. I don't anticipate this next election will be our last election was in person. This was the 2020 election. The 2021 election was in person. So we wouldn't have that $3,500 postage expense. I think, I know that our neighboring district was going through the same situation, and they were reaching out to the community to see if there was interest. I don't know where they ended up on it. Maybe perhaps we could reach out and see.
Their timeline for responses hasn't been reached yet.
Okay, so they're still accepting resumes. It's a thought. It's a thought, and certainly the end of the year will be here before we know it, and the election will be here before you know it. So either way, I'd be open to whatever the board is going to support. I would not be in favor of a special election.
Ms. Ancona? I mean, this is a mute point because I'm not going to be here, but I think that it's a cohesive board right now, and I said that last week too. I think that you guys would be fine whether you replace me or not, but I wouldn't want to see that this costs $20,000 for an election, for the rest of my term when we're having one right around the corner in May.
Mr. Trent?
So I wouldn't support a special election. I think I said that last meeting. And I thought about it, a lot, and I think that, I could support appointing someone to the board, should there be, a lot of public input or public involvement into our process. So, either or, leaving it vacant or appointing someone, with a lot of input from the community, either one I could support.
Mr. Pacini?
I guess the first question I would have is, seeing the expenses for a special election, I'm assuming they wouldn't equal this, or would they? I mean, do we need everything that's here in a special election?
I don't know, probably not.
I mean, I'd be curious to know what it is, not
Well,
that I'm.
a lot of the money is in the
The mailing, there's something else here, $5,000 in 2024. Lorraine Gregory Communications, in parentheses, it says ballots, and that was a first-time charge. Actually, there's an asterisk here that says, communications company, and we split the charge with somebody. So I don't really know what that was. I don't think it would be $20,000 to run it, not to say that I think we should have a special election, but I would be curious to know what we really think it legitimately would be. If somebody has an idea, maybe that can go in the update. But I said it last time we discussed it, I'm in favor of leaving it vacant. I don't see an appointment or not having somebody here swinging the function of the board any one way or the other. I have a problem with us making a decision that should be left up, to the public. So I'd rather, I don't see there being a disruption. I don't see the BOCES superintendent stepping in. You still need 4 votes positive votes to pass something, affirmative votes to pass something. And I just don't see the makeup of the board changing much. So I'd rather leave it vacant. I am not in favor, again, like I said, of appointing someone. I would then look to a special election if the cost is cheaper than what we're looking at here, which I would have to think it could be, should be, but I don't know.
Mr. Parker?
Well, obviously, looking at the cost, I'm certainly against that. I suppose we have 2 choices in my mind. One would be to appoint someone, and then who would decide on who makes that appointment. And I pretty much agree with what everyone has said. I think leaving it vacant would not be a bad thing. We still have a majority, so I'd leave it at that.
Ms. Aruna?
I agree. I don't think that the vacancy will impact the decision-making that we have here. Obviously, if it started to, then we would need to look to appoint somebody or have a special election, but I don't foresee that happening.
And I was just gonna reiterate that the others, I'm against having a special election, not just from the money, but you're thinking it may cost less, I think it may cost more, because some of these figures we split with the libraries that had elections at the same time, so it could even cost more. But I don't think it makes sense to do a special election because of the expense and also the fact that time's gonna pass pretty quickly between now and when we have our regular election. So what would we get out of it? And then we're down to whether the board appoints someone or we leave it vacant. And I was just thinking of the last time, you know, you've made a comment about how it was handled last time we had a vacancy and it was left vacant until the next regular election. Well, the last time somebody got appointed was back during a real disruptive period in our district's life, about 15 years ago. And it was, I'll be understated and just say, it did nothing to help the situation at all. And I don't want to be in that position. So I've been thinking over the last few weeks where I would come down on it and my preference would be leave it vacant. I meant what I said when I commented about Gina's participation on the board and how I think the board has matured. I think we'll be just fine. We're gonna need 4 people to pass or to accomplish anything, whether those positions filled or not filled. So I think we'll be okay and we'll get to the next election and then that will have 4 seats coming up, and as I'm seeing.
It would be 4.
4, yeah, there's 3 of us, and then the extra seat, so.
And I just have one request on expenses. I see we have food for inspectors in here as expenses. The delis that were used were out of district. I would just recommend that we stay in district to support those businesses that are in our own school district and not outside the district.
I would agree, that's a good point.
As far as I'm concerned, Cafe Costello should be catering everything. That guy donates so much to our schools and does so much. Some of those kids that hang out in the village, there's a separate price for those kids when they try to rattle out their money for pizza. He's a good man, and we should give him all, and I know we do use him for things.
He also does pizza fundraisers as well.
He does what? Yeah, no, he does fundraisers, he does PTA, he does a lot. But just like I said, the kids going in there from after school, from the middle school on the weekend, like during the week, he's really good to them. And you have to have patience to deal with middle schoolers. Free range in the village.
So let's go back to, what do we want to do about the vacancy?
Leave it vacant.
Leave it vacant is,
Second.
I don't know
Yeah, we don't.
that, do we need, I don't think we have to take a vote on it, but I think I'm hearing that all 7 of us think that that's an appropriate thing to do, so. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our next item, which is a revision and first reading of policy 7512, student physicals. This revision updates the grade students must have satisfactory health exam conducted, cleans up language and formatting throughout the policy, including dental health certificates and health screening. Strategic planning, as well as district council, have reviewed and approved these revisions. I offer this for the board's first reading.
Thank you.
Questions, comments on that? Okay. We'll move to our next first reading, which is policy 5670, records management. This revision updates policy 5670 to conform with New York state local government records retention and disposition requirements. The strategic planning and council has also reviewed these changes, and I offer this for the board's review and first reading. on to our final item for discussion and action is the dedication of the middle school athletic complex in memory of John E. Conquest. Back in May of 2010, the Board of Education dedicated the football field in Mr. Conquest's memory. Unfortunately, through a combination of vandalism and storms, the signage of the field was completely destroyed and had to be removed. As we contemplated new signage, we decided to dedicate the entire outdoor athletic complex in John's honor and create signage that would withstand the elements for years to come. And if the board doesn't mind, I'll read the inscription. It does give those who might not have known John a little insight. John Edward Conquest served the South Country School community for 22 years as an administrator, community coordinator, and volunteer coach. Nobody reached kids like John did. He truly cared and spoke their language, but held them accountable for their actions at all times. He had an uncanny ability to know exactly what kids needed, whether it be a shoulder to cry on, a word of advice, or a stern lecture. He treated all students with dignity, respect, and the expectation that they conduct themselves like responsible young adults. It is in his memory this athletic complex is dedicated. The signage is currently in fabrication. We had hoped to be able to do a dedication this fall, but quite honestly, that is not going to happen. We're probably looking more in the area of the springtime, and at which time we will pick a schedule and a dedication ceremony. I've been fortunate to get some contacts with John's family that are local that I was unaware of. So we'll be reaching out to them once the board does approve this evening. And I offer this for the board's consideration and action.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the, what do you call it, the layout?
Athletic, middle school athletic complex dedication.
Okay, to approve the middle school athletic complex dedication as recommended by the administration. Is there a motion? Mr. Trent and Ms. Ancona second. Any discussions or questions? Mr. Piccini?
Will there be a committee put together to discuss the dedication? I mean, I'm assuming we're gonna have an event of some type.
Yeah, so I was thinking to try to find a time when we had a lot of events going on at the field, and do it before.
I know you said we couldn't do it this fall because of things like that, but I would hope in
Yeah,
the
it would have been
spring.
beautiful to do a football game.
Yeah, if we can do something, we can just put a committee together. I mean, I could think of a lot of different things, maybe some former students or staff members want to speak for a moment about them. I know you mentioned inviting the family. It would be, when it initially started and the undertaking of when Mr. Conquest passed, it was, there was a lot of emotion amongst the community. A lot of people wanted him to be remembered. It would be nice to reach out to those folks to make sure they know about the event and if, protocols permit to attend the event.
I've been keeping names, but if you know of any,
I
pass
really,
them on.
I just know that there was a petition at one
Yeah,
point.
I have
There was a
those.
Facebook page. I
I
mean,
have
one of them was a former staff member's son and things like that. So
I have those
there were some key people. I think there was a former board member, Ms. Schatzman was very close to Ms. Conquest. I mean, she would be somebody you might want to reach out to.
Okay.
If I could be wrong about that, I faintly remember her advocating for some remembrances. And I'm sure there's plenty of them. I'm sure some folks who worked in the district for a number of years with him would be able to provide
Yeah, I
some.
have been bouncing things off.
I think there was a Facebook page, dedicated to it, and maybe someone could post some messages there or something. But anyway, thank you.
If there's no other questions or discussion, all in favor? It's unanimously approved.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to curriculum. The administration recommends approval of curriculum changes reflected in schedules G1 and G2.
Is there a motion to approve items G1 and G2? Ms. Ancona.
Ruda.
Ruda.
Last time he's gonna do it.
Last time.
No, don't count on it.
You know what's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen?
Next time I'm gonna take your name tag and just put it here.
And then I'll get it right.
Maybe you should move forward.
Yeah.
Ms. Aruda, you made the motion
I
to
did.
approve. And how about if Ms. Ancona would like to second? Thank you. No questions or discussion, so all in favor? It's approved.
And moving on to personnel, administration recommends approval of personnel changes reflected in schedules H1 through H9.
Is there a motion to approve items in H1 to H9? Mr. Pacini and Ms. Aruda, second. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, it's approved. And don't you get to say something?
I do.
And I think you wanted to start.
I don't want to forget this one.
Okay. So the board made obviously a few approvals, and I'd like to announce a few of them for the public. The board has just approved 3 new faculty staff members. Megan White as a social teacher at the high school. Vincent Rella as a science teacher at the middle school, and Stephanie Mary Langioletti, I hope I didn't butcher that, as a teaching assistant at the high school. And also, the board has just approved my tenure recommendation for Miss Jackie O'Hagan as Director of Humanities, and Miss O'Hagan is, of course, with us in the audience, so congratulations, Ms. And moving on to business, administration recommends approval of business items reflected in schedules I-1 through I-8.
Hold on just a second. I-1 through I-8, okay? Is there a motion to approve business items I-1 through I-8? Ms. Felice, second Ms. Ancona. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? The business items are approved.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda are closing remarks by board members. Who wants to go first? Would you like?
Sure, I'll go
Ms.
first for the
Ancona?
last
Okay.
time. So I pretty much said everything before, but I just want to reiterate that, my family loves South Country, and it was an honor to be on this board and a pleasure serving the community. And I'm going to miss everybody, and I hope that everybody keeps in touch. And I really do think that this board is great as it is, and that you guys are going to just take off running and keep going in the direction we're going. And thank you guys all for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Aruda, we'll do it in alphabetical order.
Sure, we'll go that
All
way.
right.
Thank you, Gina, for your service. You are definitely going to be missed. We will be in touch, but thank you for everything that you've given to the board and to this community. Thank you. Congratulations to Ms. O'Hagan, well deserved. And let's all keep our fingers crossed for our high school student council for Friday night's no rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have a good homecoming. I forgot this.
Friday night, what?
No rain,
No rain.
no rain.
And Ms. Felice.
No further comments, just echo what everyone else has already said.
Yeah.
And Brent Johnson.
No comment.
No comment. Okay. Mr. Parker.
I did have, I guess, a comment or a question. It's come to my attention that there was some disciplinary actions recently of students.
You might want to talk to me in private, because you shouldn't discuss any discipline in public of students. Actually, we'll be careful about it when we talk about it as well, because that's something that is, okay?
I will bring it up again, okay.
Mr. Puccini.
I have a couple things. Congratulations, Ms. O'Hagan. Very happy about tonight's vote. Very happy to have you here, an excellent educator. I know you're very respected amongst the staff, so I know there's plenty of people happy about, you being here. So thank you, congratulations. Today was College Shirt Day, which is why I'm in a t-shirt tonight. It's not the college where I went to, but it is where I'm paying for my son to go to right now. So that's why I figured I'd get some miles out of it. I had an impromptu conversation with Ms. Doyle in the aisles of BJ's this last week. And I shared with her some comments I had now having a student in college. And I had a conversation with Dr. Gianni, but I did want to share it here. One of the struggles that I'm noticing from my own son and some other kids who are freshmen in college is the lack of experience using email and being digitally organized. So my question was, and the conversation was about, why don't we have student emails? And I know why our students don't have emails. I know it's a lot to manage. I guess my question is it less to manage, and can we do it per grade? And I think the answer is we can. Is that accurate?
It's a switch.
So it's all or none?
I believe it's all or none. I have to confirm, but I believe last time we looked into it, it was an all or none.
I think if there's anything for me, and again, I know it's an undertaking, but I did want to have the discussion publicly, is that, email is really the way of the world once you leave school. And if kids aren't used to it, it was kind of like, I never even thought to even have that conversation with my college freshmen when emails from professors were going into spam. He never even would have thought to check a spam filter. It's just not something, they don't even text anymore, high school kids. Everything's through, social media, through Snapchat or Instagram. So as social media and technology evolves, there's still a real important place for email. And I think, again, and maybe it's happening more, and the discussions are happening in seniors about how to prepare, but I just thought this was one thing that if kids got used to it in high school, I think it's simple. And maybe it's not for staff, I don't really know. I just thought it would be a discussion, and I appreciate Ms. Doyle's time while she was trying to get her Christmas shopping done on lunch break, and I cannibalized most of it, so I hope you were able to get everything you needed. So that was student emails. Oh, when going back to the College Shirt Day, I did see a note from one of my kids' teachers today, or the other day, reminding kids about College Shirt Day, and I really appreciated this note because as it went on, it said, if you don't have a college t-shirt, well, why don't you represent, a career or something? And it was, I took it as a reference to trades and things like that. And we see so many different things now about schools promoting trades, and there's a social media meme popping around, and I believe it's in Huntington High School. It was a post, and it really, and what it did was it just highlighted the range of hourly pay for different skills, professionals, plumbers, electricians, carpentries, et cetera, mechanics, whatever else it is, all those things. So I really appreciated seeing it. I appreciated the staff members' comment to try to tie that in there and not alienate somebody who maybe doesn't have a college shirt or doesn't have a college to support. And then lastly, if you're not following the football team right now, you're missing. No disrespect to our other teams. I'm a football fan, and I'm busy right now, so I really only know what's going on with the football team. And it really is not just their success, but this past week was Alumni Day. And I really enjoyed being there, not only because we beat a really good team and we're playing really well. And it was a beautiful Saturday. But a few weeks ago, the community lost a community member who was a friend of mine, a friend of many people. He was a good man and somebody who gave a lot of time to the community. He coached youth sports. He did a lot for kids. And the student body, and if you knew Tim, his name was Tim Gensel. He was a hunter and a fisherman, and he always wore camo. And the student section represented him by wearing camouflage in the stands. So did a lot of people that showed up, a lot of staff members, Mr. Briggs was wearing camo, but I think he wears camo every day. So you don't really get credit. But I didn't speak about Tim a few weeks ago. There was, he's been sick for a while, but it was really nice to see that dedication to him Saturday. So that's it. Thank you.
And just to close, our next meeting, we will be down to 6 members. We'll be wishing you well. And I too am looking forward to moving forward and having Ms. O'Hagan continue in her new role. And I'm delighted to be hearing about all the things, the conference that the superintendent referenced that you're doing, the efforts through curriculum and instruction, how it's all getting coordinated and interwoven. And I think the opportunities for our students are being magnified almost, as we sit here. I'm just seeing a lot of positive changes in the last couple of years that I've been on the board. So I'm grateful that I have the benefit of seeing them while I'm here. And I send the rest of my board members home. It's a relatively early evening. If I can get my motion to adjourn from Mr. Trent and Ms. Ancona, you will second, and all in favor, and we're done. 9 o'clock, and thank you very much.
Thank you.